Can't do that. I've got a really nice garden behind. I've got two. It's going to sound like a right pillock. Well, arse actually. I've got two gardens, um, which sounds fancy, but it's not. Well, I mean, it's nice. Anyway, one garden out one way, and then the back I've got like a little courtyardy garden, which is beautiful, and it gets the sun, and it's a patio, and it's a barbecue area and stuff. But I can't work out there. I can't just, yeah, I can't do it.
Uh, well, I don't like working anywhere at all. So wherever I am, it's only for an hour or so, and then I'm fucking going somewhere else.
True. Okay, that's a fair point. What, so you just stay put for an hour and then bugger off and work somewhere else?
If I've had too much coffee, I have to leave anyway.
How many cups of coffee do you have a day then?
Two that I pay for is my limit, and then 3 or 4 that I'll make at home. That's
Right.
nothing. That's nothing.
Nothing compared to what?
Compared to people that don't drink coffee, it sounds like a lot. But
Yeah.
anyway.
I have 1 cup of tea and 1 cup of coffee.
Right.
Yeah. So this is our third pod, but the second with just you and me.
Oh, who was the other one with? What did I miss?
David Lund.
I know. I saw it, but why wasn't I invited?
Well, I think it's before we agreed that we were going to... No, were you away or something?
I've been away. Maybe it was that.
I can't remember. There was a very good reason why you weren't invited. He was the American, the financial coach from America,
Yes.
saying some interesting stuff. But yeah, this is our second one together, and I thought it'd be a good one to do. Well, I thought it'd be good to do one just to keep up to speed with what's going on. And you never know, there might be some nuggets of excitement or juicy things to...
Well, I've got a nugget of excitement, something I read the other day, and something I'd be interested to get your take on. I saw so someone we both know from an events organizer's perspective on LinkedIn, and they were opining that the insufficient help coming from government for the events industry might be deliberate on account of the fact that MPs and their rich friends want to watch venues go so they can pick them up cheap. Imagine those locations, imagine the prestige, imagine the buildings and the infrastructure and the stuff that if the worst comes to the worst would be sold to the next person. And so LinkedIn's a public forum. This guy is a sensible chap, and his post was full of conspiracy about the fact that it's deliberate so that MP's rich friends, I don't know, maybe the Illuminati or perhaps lizard people, would be buying up what's left of the events industry in the fallout.
Golly.
What do you reckon to that?
Well, apart from utter rubbish, it wouldn't work anyway, because the venues aren't owned by the events companies. They're usually on long leases.
Well, sure, but whoever owns them, if the occupiers can't conduct their business because it's calamitous, what we're going through, then someone else can conduct the same business when we're back to something like normal.
Okay, so that's sort of Darwinian, fittest of the fittest and all that kind of thing. And obviously I'm in touch with a lot of venues because that's who my customer base is. And there are some that are really struggling, some that are just toughing it out, some that are well capitalized. But if they can't make their rent, I guess, then they'll just be foreclosed. That business will be foreclosed on them. But essentially, they'll just have the contracts whipped away, and they'll just award it to somebody else when all the dust is settled.
I mean, the best outcome post-corona environment would be that the people that did what they did in March would somehow have had the assistance and the I don't know, the fortitude to proceed in October and November, December, and carry on. And if for any reason it's a different set of people, that's a failing. And it's all very well to blame the government. I don't know. Should we blame someone else? Who's to blame? Should we blame people that eat bats? I don't know. Who's to blame when that's what happens? And I guess it's a laugh. I laughed, actually. I scoffed when I thought, like, there's this sneaky cabal of rich people who can't wait to see people fail. Because when other people fail, I succeed. Now, I'm sure that goes on, but I don't think it's going on now, is it?
No, of course it's. I mean, that is that is a bit farcical, I think, in my opinion. However, I do think, and I've been very conscious of keeping relatively quiet on. I was going to say Twitter. Then I don't use Twitter. Relatively quiet on LinkedIn, because the events industry is. All coming together, and it's all a bit sort of wartime spirit of we can beat this if we stick together. And I mean, I don't know what that actually means. Sticking together and helping each other out. I don't know what that means, because nobody's got any money. So you've got to help yourself out first, and that's increasingly difficult. So there's lots of rhetoric about sticking together. And we will be stronger for it, and that's what the events industry is all about: resilience and fortitude, and helping each other out. Meanwhile, thousands of people are being laid off, and of course the government are easy to point the finger at. But my issue is with our industry itself, and I don't think we are well represented at government level. In fact, I know we're not well represented at government level. We're not even in the right category. We're in the culture and media and sport or something. And the events industry, or certainly the business events industry, nothing to do with that. I mean, it has football stadiums hold events, so But I mean,
I've never thought of it that way. When you say that the events industry is collected with culture and sport. Culture and to some extent sport are heavily subsidized subjects centrally. But who subsidizes the event industry? It's not. So why are we with subsidized bedfellows? Where's the events lobby group? The events as an industry should be autonomous or powerful, because it is privately owned, essentially. It doesn't report to anyone. It doesn't have to make excuses to government as to why no one went to see Aida. And can we have when they subsidize music, the Opera House gets £93 per seat.
Okay, that's the arts, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you're in a shitty rock band and you go down to Northampton Roadmender and you play, Roadmender gets nothing, you get nothing, and it's not supported at ground level. That's
because that's not art. That band isn't art.
No,
that's
of course
noise.
It's art by different means. It's art. Let's not have a snobbery conversation.
Art is in the eye of the beholder. I can't do galleries. I can't look at a piece of art and stare at it for 3 hours and have a discussion about what I see compared to what somebody else can see. Anyway, yeah.
Well, and on that bombshell. But anyway, I wasn't poo-pooing opera. What I was saying was, opera, arts, as a subsidized enterprise for us as a nation, they're subsidized because they're valuable. They must continue. They have an inherent value for their own sakes, and we enjoy them as a nation. Doesn't matter whether you do. And that's why we as a nation pay for them with tax. Now, events, we don't pay for events. I don't think government owns any venues that are commercial in their hiring or anything like that.
No.
I must admit, I don't fully understand the events industry right at the top where this stuff would happen. I imagine it's a private enterprise everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Why are we with those people? Where's the lobby group? When we say we stand together, we all stand together over here, but who should we send?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Who should we send to speak up?
We should send an association. I'm getting very close to some dodgy ground here. I'm going to say it. We're not very well represented, and here's the other thing. And this is the other thing with, you know, media these days. You can't speak out and say what you really feel or what you really think, because you'll just get absolutely mullered by everybody else. But
it's not only when it's contentious, though. This surely isn't a contentious thing.
Yeah, it is a contentious thing, because everybody wants to be positive and stick together and do the right thing for the industry. And that's great, and I agree with that. And I've joined lots of those discussions and forums and what have you. But at the heart of the problem, we are not, as an industry, well, there are two things. And this is why I've been following it very closely, is because we don't know our numbers. The event industry doesn't know its numbers. It doesn't know its parameters. It doesn't know what it's worth. It doesn't know how much cash it generates. It doesn't know how many people it employs. It doesn't know what its GDP is. It doesn't have a budget. It doesn't know. It can't go into government waving a piece of paper and say, help us because we're worth X. Now, there's been lots of numbers that have been bandied around, but those numbers are based on research done by some groups that they're very good pieces of research, but they're just research based on a sample size. They're not based on any actual numbers. So, and also the boundaries of events is a fluid boundary. Does it involve stadiums and music industry? Does it involve the arts, like you say, opera? Does it involve conferences, events, meeting? What does it involve? What does it contain in the bucket? What's in the bucket? And nobody can define it, because should the arts be over there? Should sport and festivals be over there? Should B2B events be over here, and weddings over there, and all that kind of thing? Should we should know what they all are, and then what they all are jointly as well. But we don't. Nobody does, because nobody's got the data. So you can't go into government and wave a bit of paper and say, please help us out, because this is the problem. Because if somebody's smart within government, and there will be people smart within government, will say, okay, what's the number? What do I need to do? If I give you some money, where's it going to go? It's just like a business. It's like a business conversation. It's like a budget conversation at work. Please, can I have some money? Sure. What are you going to spend it on? How long is it going to last you? What is your proposition? Now, the UK hospitality has done quite a good job, and they represent the restaurant market. By and large, the sort of casual dining, the pubs and bars and restaurants and that sort of thing. And they've done a great job, because they were first out of the blocks with getting the government to help them out with rent reviews and that sort of thing. But the events industry is in hospitality, but hospitality is not hotels or restaurants. Is the events industry festivals? Well, yes, it is. Production is in festivals, but its production's also in events and venues, catering. So it is quite complex. I'm not saying it's an easy job, but you've got lots of different industry associations, and they don't talk to each other because they're all doing their own thing, quite understandably.
So I'm not a joiner, so I don't really know the names of these organisations.
I'm not going to say them, because I'll be...
No, but but does it say something about the makeup of the industry? Like I said earlier on,
yeah.
And they're all private enterprise, so they're all in competition essentially. So, so why organising means one voice, and all in competition with each other is a difficult thing to organise. To present one voice, certainly as a lobby group or a funded lobby group, who pays the most? It's like NATO when Russia moan about, or America moan about having to pay the most.
Yeah.
You're the biggest, guys.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's an organizational feat of engineering that hasn't happened and doesn't exist and would seemingly be impossible. But hospitality with restaurants, I'm sure smaller restaurants or single venue, single location businesses can join those things, but largely speaking, the makeup of hospitality joints in this country are brand name. And if I turn up as Prezzo with my 300 locations and I join that association, it's somewhat more palatable that I don't know, Cafe Rouge also join. We're not in at that scale. It's harder to be worried about competition. It's nice to see your opposite number occasionally and agree on the same things, and you can work together easier at those levels. But if the events industry is healthily fragmented and diversely owned by thousands of businesses rather than just a few, it's harder to make them all agree. Isn't it?
It's a horribly complex job, but the point is that the light has been shone on our industry, and we have been abjectly poor at representing ourselves to government, which is why we've been at the back of the queue when it comes to bailouts or handouts or help outs or whatever. It's as simple as that.
I don't know that's true. Hang on. It's not necessarily about the bailouts and handouts, because on a business by business level, this industry has had access to furlough schemes.
Oh yeah. Furlough aside. Yeah, exactly.
The problem isn't the finance of assistance through the period. The problem now is getting back.
The events industry, but it's the same conundrum that the government have got. The events industry want events to come back. I saw a LinkedIn post today of a Chinese. It was done by a leading publisher, posted by a leading publisher, and it was of a queue to get into a Chinese trade show, and the article was saying, China are bringing events back. Let's, well, hey, that's great. It's coming back. And I looked at the article and I thought, what the hell? There's about 1 million people all squashed into a tiny space. That's doing exactly the opposite. Our health and safety officials, our medical scientific advisors will look at that and go, nah, not on my watch. So I think we've just shot ourselves in the foot there by saying, look, we can come back. Look how good we are. And the picture that we're presenting is the worst possible scenario for the clinicians and the scientists, because we all know that that's social distancing and all that sort of thing. So it's not great. And going back to your point earlier on, and I'll shut up in a minute because I'm becoming a bit boring. But going back to your point earlier on, because it's private and because there is a lot of money in it, both for the investors and for the industry and therefore the government. It's free enterprise. It's capitalism at its best. So therefore, fill your boots, everybody. Off you go and make a lot of money, and everybody does make significant amounts of money, and they're not too worried about being part of an association, because events are just riding, and all of a sudden now we've fallen off a cliff, and everybody's gone, oh, shit. Who's going to help us and represent us to government? And lo and behold, nobody's got the numbers and nobody can represent us to government. Anyway.
Is that right? Can we just, because this is going to be available forever, and we just don't want to go on record as being idiots. Is that right? Is it right? Are we smart enough to know that that's absolutely right? That there isn't a centralized effort, a cohesive approach with buy-in and authority, that's missing entirely.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah. And as a result of that, some leading heads of the industry got together in a venue about a month ago, and they said, we need to do something. What shall we do?
Why wasn't I invited?
Well, I don't know. Flippin' heck. They should have invited you. But they said, what we're going to do, we need to do something. I know, let's get together a fund. So everybody put their hand in the pockets and chuck some money in the hat to create a PR campaign to tell the world how good we are, so that they realize just how good we are and just how important we are to society. So the money is going to go on a PR campaign.
So, well, I don't want to be in any danger of being a voice of dissent on any effort for improvement, right? So
no, me neither. Anything
I'm glad
better than nothing.
So sure, I'm glad they did. And if that's the conclusion they arrived at, then I'm glad it's progress.
Yep,
And
me too.
it's their money they're spending, and that's brave and that's great too.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess having a political awareness of how things move and shake. So an awareness of, like I said, lobbying, PR tells that's like telling the people to clap for nurses. You don't need to tell people very long to clap for nurses. We'll clap for nurses instantly because they work hard. That's awesome. Let's all clap. But when you say to the world, well, the events industry's hurting, via any PR campaign, it's not celebrities singing "It's a Perfect Day." It's just, oh, look at those guys crying into their beers about.
I don't think the PR. I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't think the PR campaign is necessarily going to be saying "woe is us," but I think the PR campaign is all about explaining to predominantly government. Let's call it the way it is, government, and saying, "Have you any idea what we do and how important we are?"
It has to be shame. If it's public and PR, then it's not aimed at the government. That's the side. That's the result. That's the side effect. It's aimed at people to shame movement and action with the government. If you want an answer from the government, you go and ask them. That's lobbying. That's not PR to the world. When you want to embarrass someone into action, you PR saying, "Look at the events industry. We're all turned over. No one's doing anything about it. Let's stand some flight cases in where did they do that? In
Manchester Central or somewhere.
Yeah, light it up red. This is what we do for a living." And the world doesn't clap because you're not nurses. So the way for action is directly from the people that can provide action. Telling the world how awesome you are isn't enough shame on Rishi, whatever his name is, to do something specific to your industry, to say, "God, nah, damn,
no,
to help out was awesome. How about events? Go to events to be awesome." I don't know. Let's give everyone a tenner as long as they go to the NEC. I don't know what do they do.
Watch this space. We'll watch with interest the PR campaign, and it has to be said. It's a bit of a shit show out there, and we're all suffering and we're all hurting, and it's awful both from a health and from a livelihood point of view. But the purpose of this pod is not to, wallow in that negativity or that sort of pity. It's just to somehow bring maybe some not light-hearted, but some sort of semblance of normality to the discussion and the debate, because it needs to be had, I think. And I've been very reluctant to.
I didn't mean to sound like it was all poor me.
No, but me as well. I'm in danger of belittling the efforts, which of course is the last thing I want.
No. We made it very clear. I'm impressed by the effort. I just want, but the way that you're impressed with someone that's made a mistake. A lot. So if someone makes an enormously grand mistake, I don't know. I shoveled 10,000 tons of coal using my spade. I didn't need a JCB. You don't applaud. You say, "Well, why didn't you use a JCB, you moron?" So if they've spent money to do something, I wonder whether or not PR has the effect that we need, not the intended effect. They may have intended to achieve what they have achieved. It's great. Not belittling it, and I'm not part of the moaners that moan about everything. But what I am, in all things, is horrifically logical and analytic about.
I thought you were going to say cynical.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm cynical too, but cynics have a place because cynics say, "Nah, bullshit. Do something like this. Do something. Put in X and you'll get out Y." Everything to a cynic, everything is a mechanical exchange. There's no transient benefit in. I don't like transient benefits because if you rely on them, you're often disappointed. It needs to be a direct cause and effect, and I'm not certain of the value of the cause and effect of telling the wider public that the event industry hurts. What do you gain sympathy? It's not enough.
Well, I don't know it'd be interesting to see A, what the brief is to the PR agency, and B, what the the outcome is and then what the impact is. So we shall see. But I think it's quite, for everybody that's listening or watching or, shouting at us or, just about to take to Twitter to have a rant at us. I think the interesting perspective is that I just say what my customers are feeling and doing, and my customers are events venues, and your job is to build stuff based on the lowest of the lowest of the low common denominator, because you have to build it for real people, for people that will try their hardest, unbeknown to them, to break it and to pull out information which is inaccurate and therefore not very beneficial. So going back to the point you made earlier about, you look at things from a point of view of you try to bring some benefit to what you're creating, and because you're creating the platform, I've got the vision of what the platform is, which is all the venues want to share data and get insight into what's happening in the market. Can you please build that, Phill? And then you have to build something that is idiot proof and, from a data point of view, bomb proof, which means you have to start from a very low base of what people will do.
So as an unrehearsed,
so that makes you. So you start off being a cynic. What's the worst possible thing that somebody can do to this graph or this chart?
Well, the problem is if you make something idiot proof, then you just get better idiots. So the benefit. So in real life, to do my job, you need to be, I believe, horribly cynical, and it is tiring. I'm bored of myself. I'm bored of myself by 10 a.m. Honestly. And maybe I need a little bit of therapy. This could turn into a little bit of therapy, but
exactly. Tell me about your father.
It's tiring expecting the worst, and I professionally expect the worst.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm cynical. And what I fail to do in real life is detach from expecting the worst all the time. When I meet people for the first time, so you're new, tell me what you do. Yeah, sounds rubbish. And or no, you don't, you liar. Or and it's exhausting because it's an expensive way to have to live. And I guess I'll work on my private life in my own time.
Yeah.
But like I said a minute ago, having someone with, look at Tom Cruise. He took Dustin Hoffman to a casino and won, right? He didn't. So if you take people with those horribly cynical methodologies to everything they apply their own interpretation to, and it's always negative. That's me. And then you say, look at these numbers, make them mean something and make it visible and draw something that people can't break. That's my only intention. That's my absolute focus.
I know. It's
to count the matchsticks or count the cards and show you exactly what you didn't expect to see until you're happy.
It is, yeah. But for me, it's great. I've been trying to explain to people what I want for age. I'm the worst shopper in the world, okay? Because I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want until I see it. So when I go shopping and my wife or my daughter says to me, "What, you want a pair of trousers, Daddy? What do you want?" And I just say, "I don't know. I don't know what I want. What color do you want? I don't know. What style? I don't know. I don't know. I want trousers, not shorts." That's about as much as it.
I'll tell you what. Remind me never to go shopping with you. Because
no, don't go shopping with me, because I don't know what I want until I see it. So I'll try and explain to somebody something that I think I might want. But I also need somebody to say to me, "No, you don't want one of those. I need a personal shopper." Actually, Ruby, my daughter, has turned into a personal shopper. She has said to me, in fact, last couple of weeks ago, she dragged me around. I wrote a blog about it. I wrote a blog about the retail market and the similarities between events and retail. And she dragged me around loads of shops. I said, "Let's go into this one, let's go into this one, let's go into this one." And she said, no. But I went to them anyway. And then it was the last shop, and I hadn't bought anything. I was thoroughly miserable. And she said, "Let's just go into this one shop, Daddy, that I think you should go in, that you've ignored me for all this time." And I went into that one shop and I bought everything.
What was it?
I'm not telling you, because it's a bit a man of 52 should not be shopping in that shop.
Okay.
There's nothing rude or anything. It's just a bit sad. It's not Marks and Spencer's either, because that would be far too boring. Although they do have some nice things. Anyway, so the point is, I don't know what I want until I see it. And you, that's what you did. You brought my frustrations and my thoughts and my visions to life, and then you made something that is not only beautiful but can't be broken. No, that's not a challenge. Shit, I'll edit that bit out. But in so doing, we have got to what we've done is we've built trust, and we've got to the heart of the matter with lots of clients who have said, actually, can you help me with this, then this and this? Because we've got something to help them. So they start sharing stuff with us about the market, the future, what's going on. And that's really, really helpful and quite insightful.
So, I mean, to connect what we're saying now with what I was saying, probably out of turn earlier, about my reaction to hearing that someone spent their own money on a PR campaign. It's none of my business what they spend their money on. And I apologize if that's you and you're listening or watching. But the point is, as expensive as it is to hear something and instantly judge in a harsh way and raise doubt and challenge and do stuff like that, I hope people with insight challenge me. Qualified by people with insight need to challenge everyone. But when people have no insight and they're just assholes, don't challenge me, please, because I'm trying to give you something amazing. And when you wear me out, it just gets worse. So I mean, if you want someone in your corner to provide you with the truth and the facts and something that's always on, and something useful and something that has a cause and effect, then definitely someone sweary and honest and challenging, as difficult as those people are to enjoy, and believe me, they're hard to enjoy. I am. They're the right people. They're the right people for the job. And I should have been in that meeting, honestly.
Yeah, you should have been. I know some people that were in the meeting and they walked out. Anyway.
Oh, no, don't say that. That's a terrible. Why didn't you say that earlier? That's a terrible thing to hear. I thought it sounded cohesive and useful. People.
No. Well, I don't think I wasn't there, so I don't know. I was NFI.
Not as in walking out with the knickers in a twist. What?
No, I just think it was, there was a difference of opinion, I think, and it went one way.
There's your problem.
But you could say that was a little bit, didn't go my way, so I'm going to throw my toys out the pram, walk away with my bat under my arm, or my ball under my arm. It's my ball, I'm going home. Anyway, but going back to what you said about, being challenged by people that have insight, that's quite a task, because nobody has any insight at the moment.
Okay.
So, and actually, I think what has happened is everybody has realised that what they knew previously is giving them experience, but it's absolutely useless for going forward, because it's a new world order. Now, we might get back to the new world order in 18 months' time, but for the here and now, all the venues are writing more budgets than you can shake a stick at. Every week there's a new budget based on a new theory, based on a new government announcement, based on a new, and also there's nobody left in those businesses either. So there's very few people to knock heads with and work out what the hell's going on.
So what does it look like to you when you've got as many clients as you are in regular contact with? Are people, short answers, are people back off furlough?
Coming back.
And are people booking?
Yes.
Name a month that those bookings fall in.
October.
So they're starting. So we're 2 weeks away from people taking on meetings. Everything. Conferences.
Well, conferences up to 30. If you can call that a conference. There's a lot. There is a surprisingly large amount of business being written as we speak.
What business is missing because of virtual?
Big business, big events.
The big stuff.
Big stuff, yeah. Because they can't do the big stuff. So they're just not doing it. they might have a stab at virtual, and we'll come back to the virtual thing in a few weeks' time when we've got somebody lined up for a virtual pod. But they'll have a crack at virtual, but they know it's not the best solution. They know it's a solution, and all will be resumed when we're allowed back in a room and rubbing shoulders and drinking beer at the bar.
I imagine in an organizational capacity, I'm not enjoying virtual. I imagine it will be dropped like a hot turd.
Why hot? Why does it have to be hot? Just a turd would have done.
Right, so well, it's funny, isn't it? It's go down like a cup of cold sick or a hot turd. I don't know.
Okay, or a cup of sick would do. Yes. Okay, so that's your prediction. It'll be dropped. Right, I'm going to quote that one. Phill from Venue Performance says, "Virtual will be dropped like a hot turd."
You know what? In real life events from the last 10 years, there's always an event app spoken about, and if it gets to the day an event app has materialized, does it work? What's the take up? Who's interested in that? Because they're all here for real, right? And the signage is great, and the agenda is great, and I know
they're all going bust. Those companies, event app companies, are going bust.
I've never enjoyed the event app element of any of the real life events that I've been involved in. The event app, I believe, is possible. I mean, it has its use for surveying, and it has its use for feedback. It has its use for ranking content, so that you can say, well, this speaker was good, I enjoyed that, and then the client knows to either book or not book that person again for next year. So it has its mechanisms that are informative and useful. Sideways networking, never seen it work. The agenda, that's on the wall. It's called out. Voice of God says it.
It's on the wall.
I'm a little bit snooty about event apps. I think I'm probably going to be a little bit snooty about virtual events this time next year, because we'll hopefully be booking halls again and putting on conferences and talking about build days and things like that. And someone will say, event app, and I'll go, yeah, all right, if you must, here's the data feed, and here's the thing, and here's, well, and then they'll say, and the virtual, and I'll say, yeah, all right, if you must. Here's going to be the URL, and should we spend as much time building this thing in organizing a virtual version of the same? What's the tolerance? What's your appetite for the spend on making something amazing? And I'm looking forward to speaking to I won't say who it is, but the virtual advocate, fair to say, in a couple of weeks, because I'm interested to know whether or not prices will, the cost will change when we can book halls again. Is it going to be a race to the bottom? Because there's a glut. There's good and bad. The good ones all rise to the top, and that's great. But then once all the good ones are at the top, do they race to the bottom again on price? How does it? What happens then?
One virtual platform has just raised 36 million, and it started in 2019.
Yeah, but a fool and their money is soon parted. I'm not impressed when someone raises 36 million. I'm really sorry. It's not. It's okay. So when they make an assessment of raising, they talk about the size of the addressable market, experience. There's so many factors that go into a valuation that produces a raise of 36 million. And on a new technology with a new requirement from the world, that information is poor. So the addressable market for virtual events, well, we can probably work out what it is today. We've got no track record for them, and we've got no future projection for them. So anyone investing in a virtual platform needs to be really cautious about, is this a peak, or is this a hockey stick, or is this how are virtual events going to be, next year? And in fact,
they're just playing the game, aren't they? They're just having a punt. They'll have a punt. Lots of people having a punt. Lots of institutions having a punt.
It's a hell of a punt at 36 million. Not from a single.
No, obviously not from one single investor or investment house. It'd be from several, probably more than several. I mean, there's plenty of money out there. There's no shortage of money.
So do you know what? So they raised 36 million. Have you got any more details? Do you know what percentage of their company what equity they parted with to raise?
No. I don't know any of that. I just saw that number and I thought, ooh, that's interesting.
If you're going to raise 36 million, imagine they're giving away 50% of their company in equity, which they are not, by the way. If they're a software house that's got a great platform, they're not selling 50% right now. But 36 million values the company as 72 million pounds, which means, and they can't show revenue to date. There's no track record.
No, they've just got a graph of users is the old fashioned one, isn't it? Users, sign-ups.
They haven't got users. This is a new thing. You're asking.
They are getting users. They've got loads of them. It's a bit like Zoom. It's a bit like Zoom. Zoom was pottering along, doing its thing, and then all of a sudden lockdown happened and it went crazy. And now it's
but Zoom is an addressable market with a track record and a value proposition and a quantifiable future. That's why it's easy to arrive at a valuation. Virtual platforms could be the Betamax of 2021. They could be amazing. Betamax was a better format than VHS.
Yeah.
Could be amazing, but it just wasn't required. It didn't need to be that good. It didn't need to be superior. It didn't need to be slightly more expensive. And in fact, it could turn out that we don't need VHS in 2021 either, because everyone wants to go back to the NEC and enjoy their events rather than sit in this room.
That's the second time you've mentioned the NEC. Do you like the NEC?
Only because if I mention a venue name and I get it wrong, I'll look like a moron. Or NEC, everyone knows, don't they? Excel, then.
There we go. Well, what about one up north to keep it balanced?
What's the armadillo in Glasgow called?
Scotland. SECC? SEEC? Scottish Exhibition Centre.
Is
SEC.
it?
SEC.
It's sponsored. It's sponsored. So
oh, it might be sponsored now, but I don't know what the brand is.
Go.
Yeah. So we're seeing movement as of, where are we now? So the end of September. So right at the beginning of October, we will get September's data into our platform, so we can see what activity has been taking place over the last few months. So obviously we know that bit of March, April, May, June, July and August, there was virtually nothing. September, it was, I imagine there's a flurry in September for the future. So we will obviously know events took place in September. So we'll see the data of what was booked in September. And then October, which will be the beginning of November, when we get October's data, we'll start to see events that were actually ran as opposed to the events that were booked. So the data is just about to start getting interesting, which is why we have had, I won't say an avalanche. I was going to sort of,
Don't say it like that anyway.
No, I know. It's the thing in our family. My wife thinks she's quite boss, so she says things like Malaya.
Malaria?
No, Malaya.
Meaning?
Malaya.
Malaya. Oh, it's just an obscure word. I thought you were being so posh that malaria lost some context.
No. Anyway. What was I saying? Oh yeah, no, it's been a very interesting month. As people have come back, as they realise that they don't know what the hell's going on, they need to know what the hell is going on. My favourite saying: they don't know what they don't know. So guess what? They're chucking their data in, and they will be. And so we've had a healthy uptake of venue groups, hotel groups, individual venues. Yeah, they all realise now that they need data because they're being asked awkward questions.
So so by the time this is all chopped up and edited and turned into something that people can see, if you're watching this now, you're on a web page of some kind. Would it be okay? Because it's anomalized data, right, Pete? Why don't you...
What, anomalized or anonymized?
What did I say?
I don't know.
Because it's anomalized. Why don't you choose what would be really great benchmarking? It's not benchmarking if you just pick ones and twos and the standout information, but it's worth putting a date and a time to the biggest event booked currently. The earliest one, when was the earliest 21 booking made via our platform, based on the evidence that we've got?
Okay.
4 or 5 really great, not sound, but, what was the biggest event booked in September for a later date?
Well, that what you're actually talking now. The users, the viewers, and the listeners have just been transported into our internal PR meeting, because the data is of no use to anybody other than to use it externally for people to go, oh, that's interesting.
Well, it is interesting. I wish I knew.
Well, yeah, everybody wants to know, but it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Did you know that the biggest event for the last quarter was booked on September the 15th?
Did I just accidentally become a customer? Because I actually do think that's interesting.
It is interesting. It is interesting. Oh, and this is welcome to my. This is a horrible, annoying phrase. Welcome to my world. It is interesting, but it has of no value. It's interesting. It has no value. Okay, so I tell you.
Interesting's good enough. Interesting
is personal, isn't it? Interesting appeals to the human, because it's interesting, and then they can tell their friend, and then they can retweet it, or they can repost it, or whatever, and everybody go, oh, did you know that? And that's interesting. But what tangible difference will it make to their strategic decision making? Absolutely none. Unless they can see a trend that's occurring over a period of time that you have decided to measure, whether it's 4 weeks, so 4 lots of 1, or whether it's 4 months. Whatever the mechanism and the KPI that you've decided to measure, and therefore you can draw meaning from those results and those trends. A piece of data in a moment of time is interesting, but fundamentally utterly useless.
Sure. So we're getting a data science lesson now. So yes, I agree with you.
Well, isn't it? That's me. You should be giving the data science.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to. I realised how dry it'd be now that you.
Okay.
But no. Well, the thing is, you don't talk about all the diamonds found in the world last year. You talk about the largest one that was found, and then consequently, people go and buy diamonds anyway. So that's why I think, what's the biggest event booked in September?
Yeah. I like that. That's good. I like that. Yeah.
You don't. There's no stat on how many, is there? So it's always the biggest, the smallest, the longest, the fattest, the tallest, the most expensive. The big numbers are crowd pleasers, right? I mean, I want to hear a big number. It sounds awesome. But you're right. The intrinsic value or the actionable data is only actionable and trustworthy when it's aggregated and broad. Don't act on our biggest data. When you read this, don't act on that.
Don't go digging. Don't go digging where we found the biggest diamond. Because
tell your friends.
Yeah, because there'd be nothing there. It was a fluke. It was a freak of nature. It was just random. But that's one of the.
There's no Guinness Book of Averages. It's the fucking Guinness Book of Records.
The Guinness Book of Averages. Yes, I like that. Okay, good. Fair point. Well made, Mr. Cynical. There we go. And there you're drinking Guinness. Good. Okay. So, well, that's a good outcome of this random pod, then, isn't it? We're going to make.
If anyone's ever said that before, there's no Guinness Book of Averages.
Guinness. What should we should call it something? Should we monthly? The monthly.
The monthly. Let wine fill up and let. And just see what shit he says this time.
Monthly. No. I'm talking about the bits of the data, the big bits of data that we can share with everybody.
Tidbits.
The tidbits. We can't. Yeah, monthly tidbits. I don't think that would go down well. Okay.
So you could say, I don't know. What? Yeah, just say worthy of note.
Oh God,
Highlights. I mean, do you
that's
want something?
dull as dishwater.
I tell you, well,
I tell you, people literally have been. If what would be quite fun, people now literally this has turned into our internal PR and marketing meeting, and so viewers, if you viewers and listeners, if you have a sensible or interesting thing that we could call it, what would it be?
I think actually we hit the nail on the head about 25 minutes ago. This month's hot turds.
No.
Come on.
No, it's. Did you have a Guinness and something else, whiskey or something? Anyway, we can come up with it. We don't have to brainstorm it now. We can come up with it. But what we will do is we'll create a monthly. Well, it's a bit of fun, not fun, because nothing's fun at the moment. Well, it's not. It's quite a dry subject, but it's interesting. And interesting facts. Each month.
I'd like to know that. And even though you shouldn't draw actual conclusion from them or base a business decision on the highlights, actually highlights exist and they are real and they're facts. So why not put them in your vocabulary for when you're having a conversation? I mean, if people do get together with other venue owners or other events industry practitioners and professionals and team members or whatever, then I saw the other day someone booked a conference for October for 600 people in London.
Yeah,
that's your conversation. That's speed dating. We can call it speed dating. There you go.
Yeah, conference for 600 in October.
Wouldn't that be good? I don't know. Is that allowed?
Well, I mean, they'll have a cancellation policy of 0, so they can cancel at the last minute because so they've booked it because they want the venue, presumably.
I don't know. I made that up, by the way. That was a guess.
Oh, I thought you said you knew somebody had booked a conference for 600.
No. I was.
Oh, I'm with you. Beg your pardon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. I agree with you. Guinness. It's not called the Guinness Book of Boring Statistical Trend Analysis. It's called the Guinness Book of Records. So we'll do the same sort of thing with that.
The VP Book of Records.
The VP Book of Records.
Right, we're rambling now. So let's.
Okay, good.
What was on your agenda? Was there anything else that you had to say before I hijacked it and talked about?
No, I just think it's important, and this is maybe me blowing smoke up my own backside, but I think it's important that people understand what we're trying to achieve and what we think and how we think, because we're in charge of very, very valuable data and insight, and we've got some stuff that was happening soon that is going to make it really, really exciting in terms of how serious this has become. So I think it's interesting for people to get an understanding of where we're coming from or what we're trying to do. So I was happy just to sort of let it roll, and I think that's a bit of fun. Also, it is a dry subject, data, and it's very trying times, but at the same time, we can show our personalities. And I noticed the first thing I noticed was that I've got a pink shirt on and you've got a blue one.
And they're the same.
Are they? Right. Okay.
Yeah. But there you go.
Yeah, they're not company issue or anything like that.
No, are you worried about how you've come across in that pink shirt? Only real men wear pink, so don't worry about.
No, I'm very comfortable in pink. Otherwise, okay. I wouldn't have put it on.
I'm fine in blue. There is no ulterior motive. There's no meaning to the color selection. It was
good. Okay. All right. Well, let's end it there. And we will, as an outcome, we will produce the monthly book of interesting things. Yeah. Well, not a book, but a virtual book. There we go.
Okay.
Good. All right.
Bye, Nara.
Next time.
Bye.